This is All of It on WNYC. I'm Allison Stewart. Engaged couples and their families often spend thousands of dollars on weddings, contributing to a $70 billion industry. However, there's another party that also pays the costs, the bridesmaids, and they are not okay. A new book argues that the tradition of asking close friends and family members to max out their credit cards and an unseen amount of emotional labor is overdue for a reckoning. This book also poses the question of what you should consider before saying yes to being asked to be a bridesmaid. And it explores the optics of modern weddings in which some couples are afforded brand deals and everything is shared on Instagram and TikTok. The book is titled, I Hope You Elope, A Bridesmaid's Survival Guide. It is out today. Author Ruella is the style partnership editor for The Cut. And about 3 years ago, she went viral for a piece about bridesmaid burnout titled, To All My Friends, This is My Bridesmaid Resignation Letter. She joins us in studio. Hey, Rue.
Hi, Allison. Thank you so much for having me.
Listeners, we want to hear from you. Are you attending a wedding soon? Are you part of the bridal party? What expectations have been set? How are you managing the costs? If you've been a bridesmaid or a maid of honor, what advice would you share with someone stepping into the role? Or have you been asked to be part of the bridal party but respectfully declined? Tell us your story. Our phone number is 212-433-9692. 212-433-WNYC. This is a no judgment zone, by the way. Call us now. 212-433-9692. 212-433-9692. All right. At the time of your resignation, you'd already spent more than $4,600 at weddings.
I did.
When did you reach your true breaking point?
I feel like I reached my true breaking point when I realized that I couldn't even be honest with my girls, right? Your best friends, the people that you can really tell anything to. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is not me. Like, I can be honest with the people that I love. And I felt like in this season, right, that it truly felt like a revolving door is the best way to put it of a season.
Oh, you're in the zone. When you get in that zone, you are in the zone.
Yeah, and there's something about wedding culture that just really forces us women to bite our tongue, right? Mm-hmm. Stay silent. There's a point in the book where I say it's the glue. Silence is the glue that holds the fantasy together, right? And that's what the role requires. And I don't think it should be that way. So I think that was the moment when I was like, it doesn't feel good to be this silent about all this frustration I'm feeling about what I'm being asked to participate in.
With 2020 hindsight, why do you think you kept saying yes again and again and again to the tune of $4,600?
Whew. You just believe that that's what you're supposed to do, right? Yeah. And you love your people. At the end of the day, I'm a big supporter in showing up for your community, showing up for your friends. And it also, it's truly how I start the book, which is, I'm like, we do a disservice to each other as women because even, I think the biggest wake-up call and red flag simultaneously for me was the bridesmaids who were also participating with me, right? I'm like, y'all had me fooled. You really made me believe this was like fun for you. And the minute I wrote that resignation letter, like the honesty started pouring in of people who were participating alongside me being like, gosh, Rue, I'm so glad you finally said it. And I'm like, girl, I thought you were the reason I was like staying silent because you were one of the agreeable ones. So I felt like I had to be agreeable as well, right? Because the reality is you don't want to be that one bad friend who either says, I don't want to wear that dress or I don't want to participate in this and you're afraid what happens next, right? The no's really scare a lot of folks.
In the book, I Hope You Elope, you write, you're a great writer, by the way, you write, they dress it up as an honor, a celebration, a sisterhood. But somewhere between the mood board and Venmo request, though, it morphs into something else entirely, a role you never applied for and a job you'll never be paid for. And no one warned you about that shift. They just let you discover it the hard way. Mm-hmm. What gap did you see in the wedding conversation that you hope this book would address?
I think the reality of the matter is when we think of it first from the POV of, let's say it is your first time being a bridesmaid, 9 out of 10 times, it's probably the bride's first time being a
Yeah.
bride as well, and her first time having bridesmaid, or even understanding what comes with it, right? And I think the reality of the matter is no one has explicitly said, here is what comes with being a bridesmaid. And so it becomes this guessing game for the bride. It becomes a guessing game for the bridesmaid. And the costs are a lot more than people underestimate. And I think people also underestimate how much of a time commitment it is. And that comes into the emotional labor of it all. And we kind of warp it down to, oh, it's just one weekend. It's like, no, there's a moment where I'm like, here, the reality of how long you're a bridesmaid is from the day you are asked to the day of the wedding. That is truly the season of you being in that role. At any point, you can be asked to support in any capacity, right? For those 8 months, a year before the wedding. And I think people truly don't fully understand what comes with the role. And my thing is, if you did understand it, would you be so quick to say yes in the ways that we just, throw that yes out there so quick?
A new book provides both candid and humorous insights to help bridesmaids set their own boundaries. Rue Wale, author and style partnerships editor with The Cut, joins us to discuss her book, I Hope You Elope, A Bridesmaid Survival Guide. Listeners, we want to hear from you. Are you attending a wedding soon or to be part of the bridal party? What expectations have been set? How are you managing the costs? If been a bridesmaid or a maid of honor, what advice would you share with someone stepping into the role? Or perhaps you've respectfully decline the role of bridesmaid. Tell us our story. Tell us your story. Our phone number is 212-433-9692, 212-433-WNYC. It's interesting in the book because you go into the history of weddings.
Yes.
Tell us something interesting that you learned about the history of weddings that you didn't know before.
I mean, down to the fact that I didn't even know what the whole concept of wearing something blue came from the Victorian era. And the fact that we as women wear white is also tied to that era. So for me, it really comes down to when people confidently say, oh, it's tradition, Rue. Like, that's what it is. I'm like, but whose tradition, right? Like, if you want to sum it down to why the role of bridesmaid exists in the Roman times, it was a way to keep vengeful spirits and kidnapper suitors who were trying to either take the bride away. And so her maids at the time would dress alike in white garments as a means to confuse suitors, right? And for me, I'm like, if we really look back at the history of how it came to be, and now we see how it exists, right? I'm like, whose tradition is it? And why are we still continuing to follow it in this fashion and form, right?
When in your history did you notice a change? When it changed from being a traditional thing, to being something a little bit more? Because you go into it later. We'll talk about it later. But the costs of being a bridesmaid in 2026.
So post World War II, when we really get to the root of Reconstruction and we're really thinking about sort of the height of capitalism as it exists, that is truly when the concept of the family and the home was center, right? Especially for America. And at that point, the bride also became the center, right? It really became by Made in USA, by essentially all that came with the wedding, the things that we think about now, down to fabric, right? And silhouettes, that was sort of the rise of that. And so it really became from sort of this communal element to it is her day. And I think that shift is really what got us to where we're at right now. That concept of her day.
All right. Walk us through some of the costs of being in a bridal party in 2026.
The dress. We hope that it is just one dress, but if you are in a multi-ethnic wedding, there are 2 dresses. In today's world, that really starts at $150 to $175 without alterations. And then you have hair and makeup. If your bride is not biting that cost, that can easily cost $150 to $175 as well for a hair stylist and a makeup artist. And people also forget, we as women, there's prep work. You are about to be on 4K camera. There is waxing. So there's all the prep work as well. And then there's the bachelorette, right? The bachelorette trip. Those are now international trips, if not domestic flights that you still have to take. Those, a weekend anywhere from Nashville to even Jamaica will cost you at least $1,000 to $1,500. And let's say the wedding is also a destination wedding on top of that.
Just throw them all in there. Let's get them all in there.
Truly, if you are someone who is in a destination wedding, participating in a bachelorette, trying to hit a bridal shower as well, and let's say you and your bride live in 2 different states, you will probably come out $3,000 to $4,000 easily on one wedding.
Let's talk to Tanya, who's calling from the Bronx. Hey, Tanya, thanks for taking the time to call all of it.
Sure. So years ago, I'm going to qualify this because I'm 63 now, but I was in my early 20s. A friend of mine asked me to be her bridesmaid, and I was so excited. So then I get to the place to pick up the dress because, of course, we pay for the dresses. And I immediately called her and I said, I will not wear that horrible dress. And she goes, it's horrible. I said, it is so ugly. I will not wear that dress. And she goes, all right, so I will make you the maid of honor, and you can pick out a dress that you want, and then the maid of honor, I'll make her be one of the bridesmaids, and she can wear that dress. And I said, okay, great. But, as a 63-year-old looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, who does that? Like, I laugh about it. I'm mortified about it. But when I look back at those pictures, I am so glad that I did not wear that dress.
Shout out to you for being vocal. But I'm also like, what happened to the other one who had to step down and just be a normal bridesmaid?
She was fine. We all stayed friends. We're
Gracious.
Still friends. I'm 63. I was probably 26. But nobody complained. Everybody just went along. And I didn't even think about it. It's not until I was more mature that I started to think about it.
There's something that I say in the dress chapter of it all, and I say that you learn a lot about who your friend is as a bride and as a person by the dress she chooses for her friends and her bridesmaid. Because I would hope to believe that we're really past the culture of like, I don't want you to outdress me, because I'm like, no one is outdressing you. It is your day. There is no bridesmaid dress that will outdress the dress, right? And I think I would really hope to believe that you would want your friends to feel beautiful and to feel like themselves on the day that they're also championing and celebrating you. So shout out to you for really setting that boundary and saying, I can't wear this. This is not flattering.
This text says, if I want to travel, I'll do so of my own accord. My money isn't yours to spend. This said, not quite a bridesmaid, but a best man. In a span of 2 years, I had to travel to Brunei as well as Vietnam to do my best man duties, 10 days trip each time. They cost, though, especially one of them ended up in a divorce. For the next wedding, I told my best friend, dude, you're only allowed to do this one time. The divorce is not on me. I did my part.
There you go.
Let's talk to Shan, who's calling in. Hey, Shan, thanks for taking the time to call all of it.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm just really enjoying this conversation. And it reminded me of the time I was asked to be a bridesmaid by my sister-in-law. And it was a very specific cotton candy pink she was having us wear. And I am a very more masculine presenting woman, and dress my choice of dress is more masculine, and I had wanted to wear like the same color suit, and it was this whole back and forth. We had bought like this jumpsuit that was closer to the color, and she was very much like, it needs to be the exact same color. And then like when we kind of got there, it was like, well, are you going to wear like the same shoes, like heels? Are you going to wear this jewelry? Like it kind of became this whole thing. And I had to say, I can't do this, and I think the thought process behind it was like, you're going to stick out, kind of like what you were saying before. Yeah. Like it's going to draw attention away, but it really became like a big, like sever, from her side of the family to mine that we're still working through. Her mom still doesn't look me in the eye, but it's an interesting, it really brought up a lot. And it was funny to me that the groomsmen were all wearing blue and the girls were wearing pink. And then here I am non-binary person being like, what do I wear?
Yeah.
But I'm excited to read your book because I just relate to it so much. And, we're working through it. Our family's doing okay, but it reminded me of that story.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because it's unfortunate that there is something about control that really plays a role in weddings and in that season. And sometimes it brings out characters of the people that we love that kind of really can hurt us and also make us question the relationship, right? But it kind of goes back to this conversation of tradition. And I say that the season of weddings that we're in right now, I say it's a pressure cooker that we sort of millennials and Gen Z have inherited, right? But it's also an issue that is very much ours. I think there was a time and a place where I'm sure bridesmaid culture wasn't as fun for our parents' generation, but I think because of social media and Pinterest of it all, and all that, I think that, and this is still back to what you just shared, which is that a lot of folks, brides will get on Pinterest, right, or social media when they first have gotten that proposal ring and start plotting out their big day. And I think they get lost in thinking that that is exactly what they need to execute for their big day. And there's a point in the book that I say at the tail end where I'm like, if we sort of took away this prescriptive idea of weddings, right, and you and your partner sat down, did not open social media, did not open Pinterest, and say, what does celebrating our union and our love look like with our community? I'm sure it'll look so differently than what your normal wedding, right, traditional wedding looks like in today's world. Because I think we're all just regurgitating the same thing, down to the fact that people believe their bridal party has to be in this cemetery, right? Now I think people are having more fun and playing, where a bride will say, hey, this is the mood, and choose whatever color within this color palette and whatever silhouette. I'm loving those moments because you see bridesmaids in florals and different colors, and the photography looks incredible, right? And I think that's what I want to also encourage folks to just have fun and to play. But more than anything, I'm like, your community is showing up, spending a lot of money. At the least, let them feel like themselves and let them feel great and joyful in the things that they're also participating in to love on you and your partner in this big day. So I'm sorry that was your experience, but
Yeah, I'm talking about the book, I Hope You Elope, A Bridesmaid Survival Guide. My guest is Rue Wale. We'll have more with Rue and more of your calls after a break. This is all of it. You're listening to All of It on WNYC. I'm Allison Stewart. My guest in studio is Rue Wale, author of the book, I Hope You Elope, A Bridesmaid Survival Guide. You write about the hidden workload of bridesmaids, the emotional impact of it. How do you define emotional labor?
Emotional labor can look so many different ways. I think people also forget the emotions come when you're also giving up more than you are willing to give up, right? Down to PTO, especially when you think about, oh, wow, now that I have 3 weddings within 1 year, I no longer could take time off for myself to go to this vacation, right? There's also the emotional component tied to finances, which is I have now been to 12 weddings within the span of 4 years, and I have not put a dent on my student loans, or I have not saved up. And so people forget that emotional tie can really also have resentment in it. But there's also the emotions that come with participating in a wedding. Brides feel it. It's a trickle-down effect from their family, right? There's the family pressures of how it needs to look for certain folks within the family, and that pressure trickles down to the bridesmaids. There are aunties pulling aside bridesmaids to, I need you to do this, and I can't have you moving this way. So I think there's a lot that bridal parties are expected to juggle emotionally, and you're also showing up for your friend in a time that's also hard for a bride, right? And so there could be a 3 a.m. call that you're receiving because she just found out that her dress might not make it in time. Like, there are so many different components of having to be emotionally astute that people forget that you probably are juggling all that life is throwing at you as well on top of this that I think people underestimate.
Let's talk to Lisa from Westfield. Hey, Lisa, thanks for calling All of It. You're on the air.
Hi there. How are you? I got in late to the conversation, so I don't know if this is mentioned. I also don't know if it's actually fitting, but I wanted to add something that happened with me that I understand may be a new trend. My son, who is on the West Coast, we are on the East Coast. He got married last year, and his lovely new wife included the mothers and the favorite aunts at the bachelorette party in wine country.
Okay.
And we had so much fun. And I will tell you, those young girls did not hold back just because us old ladies were there. In addition, what this did, it gave me an entire weekend to get to know her mother.
Aww.
We're on opposite coasts. So when else would we really have gotten to know each other? You know it's not at the wedding.
I appreciate your call, Lisa. Thank you so much for calling in. Let's talk to Kemp from the Upper East Side. Hey, Kemp, you're on the air.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to tell you my story about I felt like I'd been a professional bridesmaid. I had a closet full of dresses that brides had said, I tried to pick out a dress that you could wear again. I never wore any of those dresses again.
It's the biggest lie.
So when I got married, I had decided to have one friend be the maid of honor. She can pick whatever dress she wanted to wear. And I had some little girls be flower girls, and they could wear whatever they wanted to wear. And I wore my mother's wedding dress, which I was so pleased that I could fit into. And that's how we kept it cheap.
Thanks for calling in. And Suzanne is calling in from Brick, New Jersey. Hey, Suzanne, we want to hear your story.
Hi. So I had a good friend who asked me to be a bridesmaid. We were friends in high school. She was first engaged, and I was in college, and I was going to be the maid of honor. And then we kind of had not really a falling out, but we just kind of lost touch with each other. Fast forward 4 years, and she asked me again to be a bridesmaid, and I wasn't in a spot financially where I could do it. I wasn't in a spot where I felt like a really good friend connection to this person anymore. Yeah. But I still felt like I had to, because who says no to a bride when she asks you to be her bridesmaid? So it was really, in retrospect, I wish I hadn't, between the cost of the dress, which I didn't like and gave away at a Goodwill or a prom donation. But there was flights and all these costs, and I still don't, 20 years later, I don't talk to this person.
Oh, that's hard. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's interesting. How can a person go about saying no?
Before I even get into that, I love the point that she brought up about having not spoken for such a long time, and then being surprised that she was asked to be a bridesmaid. And in the friendship chapter, I call it bestie inflation. I'm like, think of Oprah and you get a sedan. I'm like, there are too many women throwing out the term bestie, especially when it comes to wedding season. And I'm like, in any select season of anyone's life, you probably have 3, max 4 women who can really, or friends who can really show up for you in the capacity that is authentic and can really give that ride or die feel. And I truly think that to hit this note of 6 to 7 women, I'm like, if we really run down the numbers, they're probably placeholders. And that reality...
A relative of somebody in his family.
Exactly. So I'm like, as a bridesmaid, you have to know if you are a placeholder. And just because someone made you a bridesmaid or you asked them to be a bridesmaid and you haven't spoken for 7 years, don't feel like you have to now reciprocate that, right? I think you have to really assess the season that you are in that friendship. That being said, I think the no I always say is let it be rooted in truth. Like, you don't come out and say just no. You want to really explain what that reason is. If it is a capacity, you say, hey, love, I want nothing more than to show up for you on your big day. Of course, I'll be there for the wedding and be there to celebrate you. But right now, you understand what's happening with family obligations, and you know that I've just been recently laid off. I cannot take this on financially. I still want to be able to show up for you in different ways leading up to the wedding, and we can kind of talk through that. I love to treat you out to maybe a spa day, right? Like figuring out solutions as well in that, and just having a very open dialogue conversation. And if someone is really a true friend, they'll be able to say, I hear you. I know exactly what's going on in the season, so I appreciate your honesty. And if they really want you, they'll say, how about this? I'll bite the cost on the dress. Don't expect you to show up to the bachelorette, the bridal shower. I just want you there for the big day standing next to me. And there are friends who will say that and do that. You'd be surprised how they'll also meet you halfway or even more. Or other times, there are friends who want somebody who can fully show up and say, thank you for that. Yes, I actually probably will just have you show up as a guest if that's okay. And you're out then, and the friendship is still intact. It might feel a little off. That's the reality of the situation. But if anything, you saved yourself $3,000 and resentment that would have kind of grown in the process of you doing that, and maybe ended the friendship as well. So I think we have to just be very upfront from the beginning and do that with truth and I think with a warm conversation.
Final call. Diane, you've got a minute to tell us your story because it's a good one.
Okay, my daughter recently got married. The bridesmaids were to wear a shade of pink, rainbow of pink. These were friends she had since 5th, 6th grade. One of the bridesmaids picked out a coral dress. My daughter was fine with it. That's what the young woman wanted. That made her feel good. Good enough. Maybe the color might be more prominent in the photographs, but who cares? That's what the young woman friend of hers wanted to do. People need to chill out, relax.
Amen to that.
People need to chill out. That is the best advice
Truly.
we have gotten. Did people respond well when you sent your resignation letter?
Most people did.
Good.
Most people felt like they finally were heard. I mean, there were some folks who called me the wedding Grinch. I'll take that. Listen, I'm like, if that's what it takes, I'll play that role. But I agree with you. I think we really need to reel it back and chill out.
To quote Diane. The name of the book is I Hope You Elope, a Bridesmaid Survival Guide. It's by Rue Wale. She is the style partnership editor with The Cut and an author of a book, which is out today.
Yes.
Thanks for coming into the studio.
Thank you so much, Allison. A pleasure.
Coming up next on All of It, vacationing alone might seem pretty daunting, but it can be really rewarding. Up next, we're speaking with travel journalist Amelia Edelman to hear her tips for traveling solo and how to make the most of it. I'll meet you back here after the news. This is All of It.